sustainment brigade, so I'm just going to kind of retouch on those things. And really what I want you to get out of today's lesson regarding sustainment brigades is really how you will actually see them operate on the battlefield. Because they are a very unique structure, and it's a structure that is continually evolving to support brigade combat teams and the division. So just on this first slide, you see all of these different sustainment brigades, right? All of these ones, now keep in mind, these are not the only sustainment brigades in the Army. And in fact, the Army is transitioning to kind of delineate between, you heard Captain Lasky yesterday repeatedly say DSB or DSSB, right? That's the new doctrine and terminology that has come out that has essentially realigned our sustainment force structure within divisions, right? So previously, right, you'd have something like 1st Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade or 82nd Airborne or something like that. You would see those things as like, yes, they would wear the patch, but they weren't actually part of the division. And so it's taken a number of years to actually get them to formally be part of the divisions that they actually support, right? So all these ones that you see here, right, that are all wearing these division units, with the exception of this one and that one, really. They're now aligned, and they're now referred to as division sustainment brigades, right? And as we go through the slide deck, you're going to see that there's now a clear difference between a division sustainment brigade and we'll just call it a regular sustainment brigade, right? There are more than just these sustainment brigades in the Army. Is there anybody in I'm pretty sure there's a lot of folks who are in the Guard and Reserve, which is where 70% of the Army's sustainment force structure actually lies, right? Is in the Guard and Reserve. So those are all supported and have higher headquarters as sustainment brigades, right? So they provide that major kind of theater muscle behind sustainment. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just a quick note, right? So it shows here 7th TBX, right, and 16th Sustainment Brigade. Right, so 7th TBX is the 7th Transportation Brigade Expeditionary. It used to be referred to as a sustainment brigade, but it's a transportation brigade. That unit is headquartered over at Fort Eustis, and they're the ones who essentially have all of the Army's watercraft. So if you're wondering, like, wait a minute, the Army has boats? Yes, they do. And these are the folks who actually are overall responsible for them. 16th Sustainment Brigade is what we call a division separate sustainment brigade, which means they're not aligned. They don't wear a division patch like these folks do, right? So they're the sustainment brigade in Europe, and they fall under the 21st Theater Sustainment Command over in the European Theater of Operations. Okay. All right. So why do we have to take the time to learn about sustainment brigades? So I want you to imagine a shark, right? And if you've ever watched Shark Week, it's like the greatest week of all mankind. What gives the shark its power?
Its jaw or teeth, sir.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Like its teeth, its like function.
Okay, so it's the power. So you're saying the teeth, right? So like, if that great white bites down on you, like, I'm sorry, your arm just became his or her dinner, right? But are the teeth what gives it give that shark the power?
Its fins, sir.
Tail, sir.
Fins, tail. Okay.
The structure of the jaw, sir.
Who said that?
Lieutenant Hernandez, sir.
You said was it the jaw?
The structure of the jaw, sir.
Bingo. Bingo. Is there anybody in the Ohio National Guard?
Yes, sir.
What unit are you assigned? Who is that?
Lieutenant Fricky, sir.
Okay. What unit are you assigned to?
I'm in the 1482nd Transportation Company, which is in the 371st Sustainment Brigade.
Okay. What is I mean, at least it was in 2017 when I worked with them, but what's the 371st Sustainment Brigade's motto?
I'm not sure, sir. I've only been there for about 2 months.
Bad lieutenant. All right, you need to learn this. Their motto is Jawbone Warriors, right? Which the first time I heard it, I'm like, that is dumb. It doesn't make sense. But the brigade commander at the time, he educated me about why they call themselves the Jawbone Warriors, right? So he's like, hey, combat arms, that's the teeth. That's the stuff that's going to do damage once it actually gets into your flesh. He's like, but what gives those teeth so much power is that shark's jawbone. He's like, so combat arms is the teeth, sustainment is the jawbone. Sustainment and sustainment brigades is what allows combat arms, is what allows the infantry, the armor, aviation, field artillery. It allows them to do the damage that they're able to do because of the strong jawbone of sustainment. And that has stuck with me ever since. I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense. Right? So all of this POI and everything that you're going to learn over the next 16 weeks, right? A lot of it, most of it is going to be focused on the operations of an armored brigade combat team, right? All that sustainment that's going to sustain that brigade combat team is going to come from sustainment brigades. Think of sustainment brigades. This is your big boy, big girl logistics, right? This is bringing the actual power behind what that brigade combat team's able to do, right? So before we move on, the reason other Captain Jarzen asked me to teach this today. So her and I both started our careers in the Army in the Sustainment Brigade at Fort Carson. Then it was the 43rd Sustainment Brigade. Now it's the 4th Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade. We went to Fort Drum later after Captain's Career Course, and we both ended up right back in 10th Mountain Division Sustainment Brigade. And then from there, she took command in 2nd Brigade Combat Team, and I stayed in the Sustainment Brigade, and I became a company commander for the 543rd Composite Supply Company. So most of my career worldview is shaped within sustainment brigades, and there are things about it that are good. There are things about it that are bad, right? There's everything has a good culture and a bad culture, and sustainment brigades are no exception to that. And you're going to hear a lot of folks in your time in the Army who are like, "Oh, sustainment brigades this, sustainment brigades that." Sustainment brigades are as good as you make them to be. The same ways if you were in a BSB or if you were in an FSC, whatever unit that you're in, it's only going to be as good as you make it out to be. Okay. So that's kind of a little bit of my background of why I'm teaching you this, because you're about to see a little bit more behind the curtain of how sustainment on a battlefield actually works. And we're going to get into the whiteboard and pick up where Captain Jarzen left off. Okay, so hey, here are your references. FM 4-0, ATP 4-93, and then 4-93.1 are your doctrinal references for sustainment brigades and CSSBs. There have been some updates, and there are more updates in the works to actually transition that language over to division sustainment brigades, division sustainment support battalions. All right, so just keep that in mind. So if I say sustainment brigade or CSSB, and you hear Captain Lasky or another TAC ever say DSSB or DSB, essentially we're all talking about the same thing, but I'm going to show you kind of there's going to be some differences. All right, learning outcome, got it. All right, hey, so what's a sustainment brigade? Bottom line, it's a very flexible organization that can be task organized to meet whatever mission requirements there are. So unlike a brigade combat team where the structure that you learned yesterday is pretty standard, right? You're going to have 3 maneuver battalions. You're going to have a cavalry squadron. You're going to have a fires battalion. You're going to have an engineer battalion. You're going to have a brigade support battalion. That structure, more or less, is fixed to a brigade combat team. With sustainment brigades, right, you could have a special troops battalion, you could have an engineer battalion under it, you could have a multiple CSSBs under it, you could have terminal battalions under it, you could have motor transportation battalions under it, you can have all these different structures that can be aligned under a sustainment brigade because of how their task organized, right? And they have a flexible staff structure to be able to do multiple operations regarding sustainment, right? So the big thing here, it does not have the organic capacity to execute its assigned mission without the assignment of subordinate support units. And that's what I was talking about. Captain Jarzen brought it up earlier to where, hey, what is the only organic unit to a sustainment brigade? It's the HHC in the Special Troops Battalion. And the only organic unit within a Special Troops Battalion is that same HHC. That's it. If you end up in the 82nd Sustainment Brigade, or if you end up in the 1st Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade, all those units that are under it, they're not organic to that brigade at all, right? They're task organized under it, they're TACON, they're OPCON.
You have 1330 to 1530 lost at.
Oh, sorry, hold on, everybody. Pause. Okay, sorry about that, folks. All right, so all of those other units, those CSSBs or those DSSBs, they're all right now, until the force structure officially changes, they're all task organized under there. Once the force structure changes in those divisions, then it's actually going to be organic to that division. It's going to be organic to that brigade, but it's still modular in nature. Okay. All right, so here is how it's essentially task organized by the staff. You have your brigade commander, your deputy commander, command sergeant major, judge advocate, your typical kind of brigade combat team, what do you call it, staff, right? Now, the biggest difference between a brigade combat team brigade staff and the sustainment brigade staff is these folks right here, right? The SPO, the support operations, the SPOZOs, whatever you want to call them, they're unique to sustainment brigades. They're unique to brigade support battalions. They're unique to CSSBs. No other units in the Army have what we have termed support operations sections, because for whatever reason, logistics and logisticians were like, hey, we'll just have operations and then we'll just have support operations to do all the external stuff. To me, that's never quite made sense. I have never spent time in a support operations section. Thank God. I've been in S3 anytime I've been on staff. And, there are some kind of unique things that SPOs do. But the best way to think about it is, if you look at a maneuver battalion, if you look at a brigade combat team, their S3 section is like 20 or 30 people deep, right? They're very large sections. It's the reverse when it's in CSSBs, BSB, sustainment brigades, where that SPO section is like 20 to 30 people deep, right? In a sustainment brigade headquarters, that SPO section is often like 90 people deep, right? So you got to think of the scale in which support operations are being conducted, right? All right, so sustainment brigades have a pretty clear mission. Their key element, obviously, providing support and services, right? Two key phrases: support and services to warfighting units to ensure freedom of action, extend operational reach, and prolong endurance. Great, right? Support and services, when you combine those things together, you get sustainment, right? Words have meaning. I'm going to tell you this now. Words have meaning. Brigade support battalions do not conduct sustainment. They conduct support. Forward support companies do not conduct sustainment. They conduct support. And the reason is because of the assets and the functions that they have. In order for them to provide sustainment, they would have to provide financial management and human resources and life support activities. They're not equipped to do that at the FSC and the BSB level. sustainment brigades are, because they are able to conduct financial management and human resources, because they have financial management support companies, they have human resources companies that are able to provide those services and functions. Okay. And the majority of those sustainment brigades, you see it down here, are now divisionally aligned. So that kind of tirade that I went on at the very beginning, all of those ones that you see unit patches, they are now divisionally aligned. And very soon they're going to be actually organic to that division, right? But they'll still essentially have the same base level of responsibility, which is to support the division and provide area support to kind of any enabling units that are within their battle space, right? If that makes sense. All right, so 4 missions of a sustainment brigade. Captain Lasky talked about it yesterday: theater opening, sustainment, theater distribution, closing. Can anyone tell me really quick, what each of those are? What's theater opening? Don't everybody jump up at once.
Sir, could theater opening be considered like advon? Like every time we go somewhere, it's not necessarily a recon, but like every time we go somewhere, there's troops already there, pretty much waiting. So would that be considered theater opening before like the main components of the units come?
So I'm going to say yes. That's a very scaled down way of looking at things in terms of theater opening. But the principles of what you're getting after are essentially the same. They're there to essentially open up the theater, open up the area, open up whatever for follow-on forces to begin arriving. Right? So think of your sustainment brigade conducting theater opening as that advon. They're going to open up ports. They're going to open up seaports, airports, rail lines. They're going to open those things up and control those things, so that way it allows follow-on forces to freely enter the theater of operations and then into combat. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, sir.
Okay, who could tell me the sustainment mission?
Sir, Lieutenant Boswell, sustainment mission is basically the theater's already open and you're just sustaining that. You're not really expanding that theater. You're just making sure that what you already have open is supplied.
Right. So when we say sustainment, what are we talking about? What are they doing?
Setting up shop.
Sir,
Okay.
Lieutenant
That's
Rodriguez.
shop. That's theater opening. Like,
No, it would be more along like maintenance of equipment and items, providing sustenance for soldiers, medical care when necessary, and so forth.
bingo. Okay. Who could tell me what theater distribution is?
Sir, Lieutenant Hill, basically getting within those, doing that distribution missions and whatnot, supporting the maneuver elements and actually providing that support for whatever the mission task or whatever mission command has for those specific units.
Right. So thinking in terms of theater distribution, if I could help you visualize a little bit, it's essentially the distribution of material and personnel, supplies, equipment, all that stuff from the port of debarkation. So if you ever hear POD, SPOD, seaport of debarkation, APOD, airport of debarkation, basically where their end destination is. It's basically all the stuff that's going to come from there and then distributing that all the way forward throughout the theater of operations. And then who can tell me what theater closing is? And to echo Captain Lasky, like, this is something the U.S. military, writ large, isn't terribly good at, because we haven't closed the theater of operations in Japan or Germany, and we've been there for like 70 years. Right? So who could tell me what theater closing is?
Would that be a reconsolidation of forces and equipment, kind of retrograding and shrinking down your footprint and get ready to pull out from whatever area you're in?
Bingo. So just as a quick aside, right? So when Mrs. Captain Jarzen and myself deployed to Afghanistan in 2013, that was one of those, ebbs and flows of, oh, we're staying, oh, we're going, and we were in the going phase, and so we were retrograding equipment out of theater. We were closing down the FOBs and the COPs and turning them over to the Afghans. We were doing theater closing operations in preparation to leave, and that was, Christ, 8 years ago at this point, and we're still there. So again, theater closing, not terribly good at, but it's a mission that sustainment brigades do. Oftentimes, you may have a sustainment brigade start one mission and then transition into the next. And then some sustainment brigades, depending on how we're aligning force structure for the future, may just do theater opening, right? Which means, hey, they're going to have a terminal transportation battalion. They're going to have a CSSB. They're going to have a movement control battalion. They're going to have things to open up the theater of operations to allow the flow of personnel and equipment into the theater. And then you might have, once they've established that, they'll continue to run that theater opening and they'll run that operation. And then another sustainment brigade will come in and then run all the theater sustainment. And then another sustainment brigade will come in and run theater distribution. And then that same one that was doing theater opening may transition to go do theater closing. So one sustainment brigade has the capacity to do all four, but more likely than not, different sustainment brigades will be kind of task organized to do each of those missions. All right, so I'm just going to skip past these because everybody pretty much got it, and these are in their slides. Hey, here's what they would do. The task org, don't pay too much of attention to it because it's just whatever they're going to be able to do, or whatever gets task organized into them. Sustainment, theater distribution, almost the same stuff. You'd see how these battalions here, it just says support supply battalion, which is very bad doctrinal graphics. And then obviously theater closing. Okay, here's kind of a notional task org of what a typical, theater closing sustainment brigade may look like. Again, I wouldn't put too much money and weight into this because again, it can change. Always remember that these task organizations for sustainment brigades are fluid, flexible, they're modular, right? They could change depending on whatever that mission ends up being. All right, here's your check on learning, right? You have these slides, know it, learn it, love it, right? This is not really what I'm going to get after because I really need you to understand how we're going to be doing this stuff, right? Your CSSBs, your Combat Sustainment Support Battalions, now colloquially called Division Sustainment Support Battalions. So CSSB, DSSB, roughly the same thing. I'm going to tell you there's going to be a key difference, right? So, and I'll show you what those differences actually are going to be, right? So again, this is terrible graphics, right? But you have your HHC, right? Then you have your quartermaster support company, your maintenance company, what's known as your support maintenance company. You have a medium truck company, you may have an ammunition company, you may have a composite transportation company, right? So again, that's kind of that's what has been over the last, I'd say, decade, a general task organization of a CSSB. And then the unique thing about each of these companies is they could all deploy independent of the battalion. Right. So I think Captain Lasky mentioned it yesterday and Captain Jarzen mentioned it earlier this morning. Each of these companies have their own alpha UICs. So you could go and look up a UIC specific to, the 32nd Composite Truck Company at Fort Carson. You could look up the separate UIC of the 543rd CSC at Fort Drum. And they could all deploy independently. And oftentimes, because of the unique nature of sustainment units, sometimes, so something like a modular ammunition company, you could have separate platoons deploy independent of the company headquarters, right? Sometimes you could just have the HHC of the battalion deploy and all these companies stay back, right? So I deployed to Kuwait in 2017 with the headquarters of 548th CSSB, and it was just the HHC. And then when we got to Kuwait, we had all these other companies fall in under us to be task organized. Right, here's some examples. Your composite truck companies, your modular ammunition companies, your composite supply companies. I'm just going to briefly talk about what each of these are so you can understand them. All right, so your composite truck companies. So way back in ancient history, in the year of 2011, when Captain Jarzen and I first got into the Army as commissioned officers, most of the companies, the sustainment companies in the Army were, at that time, just generally what was called functional companies. And when I say functional, that is a transportation company commanded by a transportation officer, with transportation NCOs, with transportation platoon leaders, transportation warrant officers. Everybody was transportation, all in just a transportation company. And it was a medium truck company, which means all they had was just PLSs, right? And then around 2013, 2014, 2015, the Army began to transition functional companies because it's like, hey, I don't need one company of 200 PLSs. I need something that's flexible to support my brigade combat teams. So they combine a lot of elements, a lot of different transportation elements, supply elements into one company. And that's how you get the composite truck company, composite supply company. Those of you who may end up at Fort Eustis in 7th TBX or in Hawaii under 8th TSC, you may end up going to what's called a composite watercraft company. Composite, all it means is, hey, you've brought together different parts of transportation or of maintenance or ammunition or supply, and you've brought them together kind of under one roof of a company, right? So composite truck company, right? So say if there was a H symbol down here for heavy, that means that you have one platoon of HETs, your heavy equipment transports that are moving tanks and Bradleys. You would have a platoon of PLSs, right, to move your general cargo, water, fuel in terms of tank rack modules and hippos. You would have a platoon full of troop trans, right, to go ahead and actually transport troops around the battlefield. And that's 3 different platoons, 3 different transportation functions, all kind of under one company, capable of performing all of those. Composite supply companies. My first platoon was the SSA platoon and Class 1 section, right? That was one platoon. The other platoon was my fuel platoon, right? That was my second platoon. And then my third platoon was water. And also, that's supposed to be the shower symbol, but it was the water platoon and shower and laundry. So all of my water functions, anything that dealt with water was in one platoon, anything that dealt with fuel was in one platoon, anything that was SSA, Class 1, Class 2, Class 9, those types of things were all in another platoon. Previously, these composite supply companies just used to be SSAs. It was a company full of like 4 SSA platoons, right? And the Army is like, hey, we actually don't need 4 SSA platoons, Army. So you're going to see those quartermaster supply companies pure or transportation companies pure. You're going to see those if you're in the Guard and Reserve. You're going to see those there. You're not going to see a lot of those composite type units in the Guard Reserve. Any questions on this? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. The only organic unit to a CSSB is the HHC. There you go. Just like how Sustainment Brigades, the only organic structure to the Sustainment Brigade is the HHC in the STB. The only organic structure to a CSSB is the HHC, right? So,
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Lieutenant Zeroni. But can you explain what the organic means? like by a company organic. It's covered.
Okay, so, and that's a good question. So that's a term that you're going to hear a lot throughout your Army careers. You're going to hear organic or inorganic or not organic. So the best way to think about it, right, is you go to a grocery store and you're going to see bananas. And then right next to all these bananas are more bananas that are more expensive, but say organic. So somebody tell me the difference between an organic banana from Chiquita banana and the non-organic Chiquita banana.
No, sir, they're not genetic modified.
Right. Yeah. More or less, they're not genetically modified. And that is the organic. So organic is essentially shorthand for this is a natural function. It naturally is part of this thing. Your arm is an organic part of your body, right? Now, if all of a sudden in your hand, which is an organic part of your arm, if all of a sudden in your hand I put, I put a baseball bat, that baseball bat is no longer organic. Like it's not a natural part of your body. Like that baseball bat never sprang from your body, as cool as it would be. It didn't. You had to pick it up and is a inorganic, non-organic part of you now, right? So organic is something that is naturally belonging to something, right? So an HHC is organic to the CSSB structure, right? A alpha company in a BSB is organic to the brigade support battalion. Now, if all of a sudden I threw an infantry company and attached them to a brigade support battalion, that infantry company is not organic. It does not naturally belong to a BSB. Does that make sense? Or did I confuse you all more?
It makes sense, sir.
Okay. All right. So we're going to come back to this, right? Because there's a couple things I want to show you. Just that way we can get this whole division sustainment brigade stuff and DSSB stuff out of the way. Then we'll kind of go to the whiteboard and start mapping these things out, okay? All right, so division sustainment brigades, right? What Captain Jarzen had mentioned earlier in your morning session, right? It's commanded by an 06, it's commanded by a colonel. If they're in a division, right, that division sustainment brigade commander is the senior logistician of the division. It's not the division G4. It's not the chief of staff. It is not even the deputy commanding general for sustainment. They're not the senior logistician. The senior logistician is the sustainment brigade commander for that division. So when that 2-star has a sustainment question that needs answering, they're going to look right at that sustainment brigade commander and say, hey, Colonel so-and-so, what's up? Right? That's sustainment brigade commander, senior logistician. Who's the senior logistician in a brigade combat team?
Pardon me, sir. For a brigade combat team, the senior logistician would be the battalion support commander.
Say that again.
So for a brigade, I'm sorry. The question was for a brigade or for
a brigade combat team, who is the senior logistician?
It would be the BSB commander, sir.
Bingo. Bingo. It is not the BCTS4. It is the BSB commander. Is the senior logistician, right? And as all of you get out into the force, especially those of you going after duty, you may hear the term bandied about as the BSB commander is the chief of sustainment in a brigade combat team. If somebody says that to you, just like nod your head and smile at them the same way you would look at a crazy person, and then just move on with life. Okay. That BSB commander is the senior logistician of the brigade combat team. Who is the senior logistician of the supported battalions within a brigade combat team?
Would be the FSC commander, sir.
Yes. Thank you. Right? Thank you. So that same structure, right? Think of sustainment brigades, division sustainment brigades. All that stuff is just built out. It's beefed up. It's like amplified. They took some of that freaking like pre-workout and it created sustainment brigades. It is like double, triple what a BSB is able to do, right? And that's what you have here, right? Here's what an MTO would look like for a division sustainment brigade, and you're going to see it for like an armored division and an infantry division, right? Because they're structured differently, right? You're going to have in an armored division, you're going to have a lot more maybe fuel requirements than you would in an infantry division. Why? Because the infantry, they're just walking everywhere, right? At least they should be. But more likely, if you're a transporter, you're going to be driving around in your trucks. I hate to break it to you. But they're going to be structured slightly differently, right? You see here, you're going to have this composite truck company with an H down there. That just means it's a little bit, they have heavy, which means they have hets, right? They have the capability of moving tanks and Bradleys. Over in a infantry division sustainment brigade, you're gonna have a composite truck company light. They're not gonna have hets because infantry divisions don't have tanks, they don't have Bradleys, they don't have strikers. So there's nothing that is heavy enough that's going to require transport, right? So you're going to be moving a lot of dry cargo with your PLSs, and you're going to be moving a lot of troops with troop trans, right? So think of it, that's kind of the most unique thing, okay? And then all these other separate CSSBs, right? You see this little dotted line, right? Even over here. All that stuff is extra stuff. All these extra CSSBs are more than likely going to come from the Guard and Reserve, right? Because this CSSB right here, this is the organic one, that's going to provide the vast majority of sustainment and support to that division for the first part of an operation until all of these follow-on CSSBs can show up, right? So this CSSB is going to be very busy as everybody goes, as we're waiting for our follow-on forces, as we're waiting for the jawbone that's back in the U.S. in our Guard and Reserve Force to get back and then be aligned under these division sustainment brigades, right? Does anybody have any questions on this? It's okay. It's okay if you do. We're here to ask questions, and we're here to learn.
Can you pull over again, please? One more time.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Can you go over again one more time?
Okay. So over all of it, or what specifically kind of stood out that didn't make sense?
I got lost a little bit since the beginning because I was writing in my notebook.
Okay. All right, so does everybody understand sustainment brigades in general, like what their purpose is, what they're designed to do?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So somebody in the class, tell me what is different about the division sustainment brigade.
I'm not sure if I understand it, sir, but I'll take a stab on this, but well, DSB is assigned to a division. I don't know.
Yeah.
You highlighted that.
But what else?
I mean, you were saying that that I mean, division sustainment brigade is assigned to a division. Like a division would be like an armor division or infantry division, and it's sustaining those divisions. And like you said, armor and infantry would be a little bit different. And then you highlighted the heavy and the light, because armor would require heavy vehicles rather than infantry would be requiring light vehicles. Just walk everywhere, and then armor because they have heavier vehicles, I guess. But that's pretty much what I understood.
Okay.
I kind of lost a little bit, but I was just trying to.
Okay. No, it's okay. So let's think of it like this, right? Where's my Ohio National Guard? Where's the job on warrior?
Right here, sir.
Okay, cool. So we're going to use 371st Sustainment Brigade. We're going to write it on this end. Everybody can see that, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So bear with me. All right, that is the graphic symbol for the 371st Sustainment Brigade. And over right here, we're going to say this is 4th Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade. All right. All right. So the first key difference between the 371st Sustainment Brigade and the 4th Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade, and we'll just kind of highlight this one, right? Between these two graphical symbols, what can you tell me what is different? Talking these. What's different about them?
It's got the two X's up top, sir.
So what do those two X's mean?
Division?
Yes. Division. What does this X mean? What does the one X mean?
Brigade.
Bingo.
Brigade.
What does that mean?
Battalion.
Battalion.
Word. What does that mean?
Company.
Awesome. Now we're getting somewhere. Right? If you're ever confused, ADP 1-02. Know it, learn it, love it. Okay. So, but back up to here, we said, hey, our key difference is the two X's for division. 371st Sustainment Brigade does not have two X's. Why is that?
Is it because they don't support a division, sir?
Correct. Whereas this one does. The Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade support a division, right? These solid black lines that you see right there, that it means it has this structure that's organic. It naturally belongs to the Sustainment Brigade. And the Sustainment Brigade is now organic to the 4th Infantry Division. It is a natural part of this of the division. 371st Sustainment Brigade, right, doesn't have an organic structure. It's not aligned to any division. It can do what's called area support. It'll support anybody who is in their area of operations that needs support, right? So what's another thing that's different, right? I'm going to help you out. What are the organic units that are now part of a division sustainment brigade?
Company L, Company H.
Okay. Now we're talking a division sustainment brigade. What is organic to a division sustainment brigade?
Division STB, sir.
And what else?
The HHC.
And what else?
A division sustainment support battalion.
Awesome. This structure that I put a box over, everybody can see this, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That structure is now a natural part of that division sustainment brigade. So in the future, when you look up the 4th Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade, you will see, wow, it naturally has a Special Troops Battalion. It naturally has a Division Sustainment Support Battalion. And I can click on those and see the companies that are organic and natural to that structure, all the way down to the company level. Right? So what now is the difference between now what is organic to the 371st Sustainment Brigade?
The STB, sir.
Cool. The STB is organic. Now, what is the organic company that is under the STB?
That would be the HHC, sir.
Bingo. All right, and if I was to draw a solid line like that, these things are organic, natural. These are organic Chiquita bananas. Are there any other organic structures to the 371st Sustainment Brigade?
Negative, sir.
That sounded like a question.
Negative, sir.
Right. There isn't. There are no other organic structures. Right? Now, what do these two divisions have in common? Or rather, what do these two brigades have in common?
They sustain a certain division, sir?
No, not quite. Remember what is a very unique feature to a sustainment brigade?
FSE, sir.
No.
Its mission, sir.
Does everybody see the slide that I'm on?
Yes, sir.
What did I just circle?
Mission requirements.
Task organized to meet mission requirements.
Somebody, one person, whoever the last person was to speak, say it again, louder but slower.
Mission requirements.
What did I just circle?
A flexible organization that is task organized to meet mission requirements.
That is so cool. So what is something that these two sustainment brigades, the 371st Sustainment Brigade and the 4th Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade, what do they have in common?
They both have the ability to be attached units in order to complete their missions.
So these things, right?
Yes, sir.
Bingo. The biggest difference between sustainment brigades, just sustainment brigades, these things, and division sustainment brigades, those things. Division sustainment brigades will have this organic structure, but they're still flexible enough to be able to receive and have attached under them other CSSBs. CSSBs are the building block organization, are the building block tactical organization of any sustainment brigade. So just because a division sustainment brigade may have an organic division sustainment support battalion doesn't mean that that one battalion has all the capability required to support a whole division. It's going to need other CSSBs to be able to accomplish that, right? By itself, the 371st Sustainment Brigade doesn't have any capability to support anybody. So they're flexible enough to have tasks organized under them 6 to 7 CSSBs to go support any unit out there, to including divisions. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So for the person who wanted me to go over everything all over again, does that clear up that at all, or are you still a little bit behind the curve?
No, sir, I'm fine now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So here's your DSSB, right? And then once we get through this, we're going to go to the whiteboard. I'm going to show you how all this looks like on the battlefield. All right, so your DSSB, right? Again, you see this black line now, organic. Unlike CSSBs, which, let me see, I think it was this slide, right? All these things here, none of that. The only organic thing to a CSSB, I'm sorry, was, yeah. The only organic thing to a regular CSSB was just the HHC. Everything else was attached. So your quartermaster supply company, your support maintenance company, your medium truck company, your composite truck company, your modular ammunition company, those were all just attached structures to a CSSB, right? So you could have a CSSB where you didn't even have that, and maybe you didn't have that, and all you had was an HHC, a composite supply company, support maintenance company, a composite truck company, and then maybe you had a, I think it's this. Maybe you had a movement control team that was attached to that as well. So you could have the 548th CSSB look a lot different from, say, the 68th CSSB, which is in Fort Carson. This one's at Fort Drum. And these two CSSBs looked nothing alike, save for the HHC, right? Because the only thing organic was that HHC. Everything else was just attached to it. Everything else had a different structure to it, right? What DSSBs have done now is think of them and their structure as division level brigade support battalions. So who could tell me what are the organic companies in a BSB? You all should know this.
The organic companies attached to a BSB are the HHC.
Oh, stop.
Oh, sorry.
Words have meaning. Organic companies are not attached.
Organic companies are the HHC, Alpha Distro, Bravo Maintenance, Charlie Med, and the applicable FSCs, sir.
Right? That's the organic structure to a brigade support battalion. How cool is that, reading that symbol, brigade support battalion? Right? Now think of this structure, think of it in terms of the division sustainment support battalion. What is now organic to the CSSB, or I'm sorry, the DSSB? Did everybody jump up at once?
Pardon me, sir. The question was, what are the organic elements of a DSSB?
Yep. What are now so with kind of that organic structure of a BSB in mind, right? And I told you earlier that a DSSB is, think of it like the division equivalent of a BSB.
Yes, sir. It would be the Special Troops Battalion and a BSB, sir.
That's the sustainment brigade. We're talking about the battalion now, the building block of a sustainment brigade.
Composite supply company, composite truck, and support maintenance company.
Okay. Let's start from the top first.
Okay.
So what is the first company in any battalion?
The HHC, sir.
Word. Right? Now, what do you think Alpha Company would be? So think of the BSB, right? Alpha Company has what elements?
Transportation, platoon, supply platoon, and fuel and water platoon.
That is so cool. Who said that?
Lieutenant Zeroni.
Lieutenant Zeroni, you're spot on.
Oh, I'm lost, sir.
Right? So within one company, right, you have 3 different functions in the Alpha Company in a BSB. You have a transportation platoon, your distribution platoon. You have your supply platoon, which has the SSA and the ATHP. And then you have your fuel and water platoon, right? Those things, they're now broken out, right? Oops, sorry. That transportation platoon is now broken out as a transportation company. Your supply and your fuel and water is now broken out to a composite supply company, right? So your Alpha Company, all right, call this ACO, is your composite supply company. Your Bravo Company, your transportation platoon, is now the composite truck company. Your CCO would be who?
Support maintenance company.
Word. Support maintenance company. And that is now your organic structure of a DSSB, right? So the biggest unique thing, right? And then once I get through this, I'll put you on a break and then we'll go to the whiteboard. All right, so that way I can visualize this for you on the battlefield. But there's one key thing that BSBs have that DSSBs or CSSBs don't have. What do you think that is?
So the question is, what does a BSB have that a DSSB and a CSSB don't have?
Right. What organic company does the BSB have that a DSSB or CSSB does not have?
Sir, is it medical?
Charlie Company.
That is so cool. DSSBs, unlike BSBs, CSSBs, unlike BSSBs, they do not have a Charlie Medical Company. CSSBs by themselves, they don't have any medical assets. Because at that division level, you have actual medical battalions that would actually provide that Role 3 medical care, right? Or brigades in some cases.
So what about
So Captain Lasky mentioned a medical structure yesterday that would provide Role 3 care. Somebody tell me what that structure was. So we have role 1 is what?
unit level medical care?
Right, but really, like when we say unit level, what are we talking about? Unit level.
The battalion aid station, sir.
Word. What's Role 2?
Role 2 would be Charlie Med from the BSB, sir.
Those folks. So what's Role 3?
Sustainment brigade?
No. Come on. It's a structure you all learned about yesterday.
Sir, is it a cash?
What does CASH stand for?
Combat Support Hospital.
Word. That's your cash money records. Your combat support hospital is your Role 3 medical care. Your combat support hospital is not task organized, will never be task organized under a DSSB or a CSSB. Your combat support hospital is not going to be task organized under a sustainment brigade. A sustainment brigade will never have any authority over a combat support hospital because the combat support hospital is commanded by an 06. Think of a combat support hospital as a medical brigade level organization. Does that make sense? Did I blow anybody's mind, or are y'all just confused now?
Makes sense, sir.
Yep, got it, sir.
Okay. So you're going to find all sorts of cool stuff in a sustainment brigade, but you're not going to find Role 3 medical care. Role 3 medical care is going to be provided by a combat support hospital or medical support battalion, which are not task organized under DSSBs or division sustainment brigades or sustainment brigades. Okay, that is the biggest key difference. That's the biggest kind of key takeaway, is they don't have medical. Division sustainment brigades, division sustainment support battalions CSSBs, regular sustainment brigades, don't have medical organic to them at all. Medical is provided by the Combat Support Hospital or Medical Support Battalion. Okay. But you see all of these other, all these kind of blank spots for a company, right? Everybody sees those?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, cool.
Sir,
So-
Lieutenant Whalen, just one quick question. Would roll 4 be the hospital in Germany, or would that be all the way back at Walter Reed in the US?
Both. Your Rule 4 medical care is like Landstuhl in Germany. It's Walter Reed in Bethesda.
Roger, sir.
Yeah, that would be your Rule 4. So with these companies, remember, just like sustainment brigades, CSSBs and DSSBs are flexible organizations. So you can have other things task organized and then attached to them. So you could have, hey, maybe we need it's supposed to be an ammo. Maybe we need an ammunition company. Maybe I need another transportation company because we're moving so much. Hey, maybe I need a movement control team task organized under me. These now become attached to the DSSB, but organic is going to be this structure. Does that make sense? So DSSBs and CSSBs can still do all of those neat, cool things. And they can do extra stuff depending on what that mission of that division is at that time. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Okay. So, and then here you go. Here's a pretty good primer of what a sustainment brigade versus the division is. Right? Division sustainment brigades, sustainment to one division. Task organized with a special troops battalion. It's organic DSSB. And it could have attached CSSBs. Remember? Just like we talked about. Battlefield locations, echelons above brigade in division support area. Right? So when we talk about those separate companies like a modular ammunition company, that's what's called an echelon above brigade unit. Right? Even at a company, it's called an echelon above brigade. All of these very unique sustainment units like a movement control team, that's an echelon above brigade unit. So when we talk about echelon above brigade, EAB, that's your sustainment brigade type units. Sustainment brigades, they can do theater opening, theater sustainment, distribution, theater closing. They can support more than one division. They can support more than one sustainment brigade. Right? Their task org is only their organic special troops battalion and any attached CSSBs. Remember, CSSBs are building blocks of a sustainment brigade. They're the mitochondria, if you will, of sustainment brigades. They're the powerhouse of the cell. Right? Battlefield locations, echelon of a brigade in a core support area, joint security area. Basically, if here was your division, your DSA, right? All the way back would be your core support area. And those sustainment brigades will be providing all that support out of there to a division. Because they would have a lot more lift assets. All those big truck companies, POL truck companies, quartermaster supply companies, ammunition companies, component repair companies, all the big level jawbone sustainment companies coming from the Guard and Reserve would be here, would be in that core support area. Make sense? And all that's being provided to support them, that division sustainment brigade. So the best way to think of this relationship is a regular sustainment brigade. We'll call this our 371st. Our jawbone warriors, they're supporting that division sustainment brigade. And they could even be supporting another division sustainment brigade. Make sense? Because they're going to have a vastly larger structure than this division sustainment brigade will. Does all that make sense? Clear as mud, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And look, before I put you all on break, like Captain Jarzen this morning said it perfectly, right? What you're learning now is a new language. You're learning a brand new way of speaking. I don't expect you to know it. I don't expect you to get it. You're always going to have questions, and that's okay. I'd rather you have questions and ask questions than just sit in silence and be like, I don't know anything. Right? The most successful logisticians know where to leverage sustainment. They know where to leverage support. If you're in an FSC and you know the capabilities of your division's CSSB/DSSB, and you know how to reach back to that, you are immensely successful. Right? So these things aren't going to be clear, and that's okay. We don't expect you all to know it right now, and it's a lot of information. You're being exposed to structures and echelons and language and terminology that you have never heard before. Some of it you should have heard from your commissioning source, and if you don't know it, blame your commissioning source, and then look in the mirror and then blame yourself, because there's also self-development. But by and large, what's being taught here in Bullock is brand new stuff. Brand new stuff, right? Everybody should know what this is, right? What's this?
Infantry
Sir
company.
Lieutenant Boswell, it's a infantry platoon or company.
There you go. Nice save. What's this?
Armor company, sir.
That's so cool.
Enemy armor company.
No, that is not an enemy armor company. What's this?
Artillery company, sir.
Excellent. That stuff I completely expect you to know. Right? But then to sit here and be like, oh, crap. Support maintenance company, I don't expect you to know that. I don't expect you to know what this thing is down here. Or this. Or this. Right? Those are very unique things that you've never been exposed to before. Right? All of this information that I've given you this past hour, all new information. It's okay that you don't understand. Right? So, but we're going to walk through it on the whiteboard so that way you're going to be able to see, here's what this looks like on a battlefield to me. Because there's a lot of you who are going to sustainment brigades, some of you who are already in sustainment brigades. And we're going to show you after the break what your place on the battlefield is. So I'm going to put you on break. Everybody come back at 10 after 11, and that way we can finish this round out. Does anybody have any questions in the meantime?
Sir Lieutenant Beavis, a quick question on the organics of the unit. If it's organic, does that mean that it's always for sure going to be in that unit, or could it possibly change dictated on the mission?
If it is organic, it will always be a part of that unit.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. All right, everybody, I will see you in 10 minutes. Okay, everybody. We're all back up?
Yes, sir.
Is there?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. All right, so before we move on to the whiteboard, I'm just going to show you this very quick visual. Everybody can still see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right, so here's a very basic link between your division support area and to the brigade support area, right? So this one shows, hey, you have the 3rd Infantry Division, has 3rd Infantry Division Sustainment Brigade. Then you have the 54th, DSSB, it's the CSSB. It's the same thing. Then you have the 81st Composite Truck Company. It's missing the heavy. Then you have the 20th Composite Supply Company, right? And it just kind of lays out, hey, who's transporting what, right? And this is more or less true. Your truck company, because it's a composite, remember it has PLSs as well. So it could transport class 1, class 2, class 3 packaged 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Right? Your composite supply company is you're transporting your class 1, your bulk water, which is in your hippos, and then your class 3B, which is in your 969 tankers, which you should have seen yesterday. Right? These things, they're delivering it essentially to they're delivering it to the BSB. Really, they're delivering it to the alpha company of the BSB. Right. So all of this stuff that the truck company, the composite truck company is transporting, that's going to go towards, their distribution platoon. All the stuff that is class 1, 3 packaged, all that stuff is also going to their SSA platoon. Right. Everything that the composite supply company is transporting, it's all getting sent to the fuel and water platoon. Right. I will tell you, as a former CSC commander, composite supply company commander, I was also transporting class 1. I was also transporting class 2. I was also transporting class 3. Right. I would also transport class 9. Because sometimes that composite truck company was more decisively engaged transporting troops or transporting something else or transporting ammo, right? So just because it says, oh, that's what they're supposed to do, doesn't mean it's always going to happen, right? And if you're in a CSC, you could realistically have to transport all this stuff as well. You don't have anywhere near the amount of transportation assets in a CSC that a CTC does, but you will still have a reasonable expectation that you'll have to transport some of it. Right? Make sense? And so here's your little train for the CSSB as your log pack going to the BSA. Now remember, Captain Lasky yesterday talked about, hey, not only is this composite supply company going to store all classes of supply, but they're going to work in distribution of it too, between themselves and the composite truck company. And remember, it says minus class 8. Who can tell me what class 8 is?
Sir, class 8 is medical.
Class 8 is medical, right? Somebody said it. Who said it?
It's medical assets, sir. Supplies.
Bingo. Medical supplies. Who transports medical supplies?
That would be the
Charlie Company Medical.
Yeah, Charlie Med.
Sometimes. Who delivers those medical supplies to Charlie Med?
Would it be from the battalion that was attached to the CSSB? Because
there are no battalions attached to another battalion.
To the brigade, because the brigade doesn't have medical assets.
Right. Your medical support battalion or your medical support company is going to be the ones dealing with class 8. Okay. And then once your BSB receives these supplies, then they really these two platoons, not the SSA platoon, but really those two platoons are going to be the ones that then take that to I think I got that mixed up. They're going to be the ones that take that to your FSCs, right? And that's how that flow is going to work. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Bring up